You were not born to beg. You were born to bend reality to your will. Most people live by chance. Conquerors live by choice. They do not wait for conditions. They create them. They do not hope. They decide. In this world, you either command your life or you get commanded by it. A conqueror sees obstacles as invitations, resistance as fuel, doubt as proof they're on the right path. The battlefield is everywhere. Your mind, your ambition, your daily decisions. And victory goes, not to the strongest, but to the most prepared. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind. And tell us, where are you watching from? You stand at the crossroads of destiny, and every moment that passes is a battle lost, or won in the theater of your mind. I have commanded armies, conquered nations, and reshaped the boundaries of Europe. But before I moved a single soldier, before I issued a single command, I made one fundamental decision. I would not let others write my story. Listen carefully, for this is the first principle of conquest. The world belongs to those who seize it, not to those who deserve it, not to those who dream of it, but to those who reach out with iron will and grasp it with both hands. Most people, and I have seen thousands march to their deaths because of this, live in a perpetual state of reaction. They wait for permission. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for some divine sign that may never come. And in this waiting, their lives are decided for them by others who dare to act. This is the great separator between the masses and those destined for greatness, the ability to decide. When I stood before my troops at 26 years old, many doubted. They saw my age, not my ability. But I had already decided victory was mine. This decision, this absolute, unshakable conviction, is what turns thought into destiny. You must understand, every morning when you wake, you are either commanding your day or being commanded by it. There is no middle ground, no neutral territory. You are either advancing or retreating, growing or dying, conquering or being conquered. Here is how you begin to think like a conqueror. Start with your morning. When you open your eyes, do not ask, "What must I do today?" That is the question of a servant. Ask instead, "What will I accomplish today?" That is the question of a commander. Your mind must become a war room where decisions are made with clarity and executed without mercy. Doubt is a luxury commanders cannot afford. When I crossed the Alps, a feat they said was impossible, I did not hope it could be done. I decided it would be done, and so it was. This principle extends to every aspect of your life. Your health? Decide what it will be. Your wealth? Decide what you'll create. Your relationships? Decide who stays and who must go. A conqueror's life is built on decisions, not suggestions. But remember this crucial truth. Decision without action is merely wishful thinking. When I decided to become emperor, I did not wait for the crown to be offered. I moved toward it with everything I had. Your decisions must be backed by immediate, decisive action. Here is your first command. For the next 7 days, you will make every decision in your life as if you were commanding an army. No half measures, no maybes. You will decide what you want, and you will move toward it with the full force of your will. The battlefield of life gives no medals for good intentions. It rewards only those who decide and act. The time for hesitation is over. The time for conquest begins now. Remember, history is written by those who decide to write it, not by those who wait for permission to pick up the pen. Listen carefully, for I am about to share with you the principle that allowed me to defeat armies twice my size. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Strength is the tool of the amateur. Strategy is the weapon of the conqueror. I have seen generals send thousands to their deaths because they knew only how to attack head-on. Fools. They confused violence with victory. But I tell you this, the greatest battles I ever won were decided before the first shot was fired. Here is the first principle of strategic thinking. Position is power. When I won the Battle of Austerlitz, it wasn't because my army was stronger. It was because I positioned them where the enemy least expected. In your life, before you take any action, ask yourself, am I positioned for victory? The masses think linearly. They see an obstacle. They attack it directly. But a conqueror? A conqueror sees the entire battlefield. When my enemies strengthened their center, I attacked their flanks. When they expected me at dawn, I struck at midnight. Your advantage lies not in what you do, but in how unexpectedly you do it. Consider this wisdom. Resources are finite, but strategy is infinite. When I began my campaigns, France was nearly bankrupt. But I understood that creativity costs nothing. Innovation is free. The ability to outthink your opponent requires no budget. Here's how you develop strategic thinking. First, never accept the battlefield as you find it. Every situation can be reshaped to your advantage. When they expect you to go over, go under. When they guard the front door, create a back door. Second, understand leverage. Why exhaust yourself lifting a boulder when you can build a lever? In every situation, ask yourself, what is the lever here? What small action can create massive results? This is how you conquer with precision rather than brute force. Third, and this is crucial, speed is a weapon. When my enemies were still planning their first move, I had already executed 3. In today's world, speed of implementation is often more valuable than perfection of planning. But remember this, strategy without intelligence is blind ambition. Before every campaign, I had my scouts gather every piece of information available. You must do the same. Study your competition, learn the terrain, know the weather patterns. In your life, this means understanding market trends, human psychology, and the hidden opportunities others miss. Here's another truth the strong often forget. Timing transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. The same action can fail in January and succeed in June. Strategic thinking is about choosing not just the right move, but the right moment. You must also master indirect warfare. When I couldn't match British naval power directly, I attacked their trade routes instead. Always ask, what indirect path leads to my objective? Where is my opponent vulnerable without realizing it? Your strategic homework is this. Take your 3 biggest current challenges. For each one, develop 3 completely different approaches to solving it. Then, develop 3 more. Force yourself to find paths that no one else would consider. Remember this above all. The strong rely on strength until it fails them. The strategic rely on their minds, which, when properly used, never fail. Your mind, properly trained in strategic thinking, is worth more than an army of thoughtless action. The world belongs not to the strong, but to the strategic. Not to those who can throw the hardest punch, but to those who know precisely where and when to strike. When I crossed the Alps with my army in 1800, I did something that sealed our fate before we faced a single enemy. I ordered the boats burned. The message was clear. There would be no retreat, victory, or death. These were the only options I left my men. Today, I will teach you the most powerful force in the arsenal of a conqueror, absolute, irreversible commitment. Half measures are the refuge of the mediocre. Tentative steps produce tentative results. But total commitment? It transforms the impossible into the inevitable. Here is a truth I learned in battle. The moment you create a backup plan, you reduce the power of your primary plan. When my soldiers knew they couldn't retreat, their minds focused with extraordinary clarity. Their bodies found strength they didn't know they possessed, because they had to. Most people live their lives like amateur generals, always leaving themselves an escape route. They start businesses while keeping their jobs. They pursue dreams while maintaining backup plans. They attack opportunities with one foot always ready to retreat. And this is precisely why they fail. Understand this. Commitment is not about bravery. It's about strategic necessity. When I burned those boats, it wasn't an act of courage. It was an act of calculation. Total commitment removes the energy-draining weight of indecision. It focuses all your resources on a single point of attack. Here is how you develop the commitment of a conqueror. First, you must understand that half commitment is actually more dangerous than no commitment. A soldier who believes he can retreat will retreat. An entrepreneur who believes he can fall back on a job will fall back. You must make success your only option. Second, you must learn to identify what I call retreat triggers, those small compromises that seem harmless but actually signal the beginning of defeat. In battle, it might be holding too many reserves. In business, it might be keeping too many backup options. Eliminate these retreat triggers before they eliminate your chances of victory. But remember this crucial distinction. Burning boats does not mean acting recklessly. Before I destroyed our means of retreat, I had calculated every variable, considered every scenario. Total commitment requires total preparation. You must know the terrain, understand the risks, and have absolute clarity about your objective. Here's another vital truth. The size of your commitment determines the size of your results. When I committed to becoming Emperor of France, I committed totally. I didn't hope to become emperor. I decided it was inevitable. This level of commitment creates its own momentum, its own opportunities. You must also understand this. Commitment is contagious. When my soldiers saw that I shared their risks, ate their rations, and slept in their conditions, their commitment doubled. In your life, your total commitment will inspire total commitment in others. People follow conviction with conviction. This is your assignment in commitment. Identify one goal that you've been pursuing half-heartedly. Now, create a decisive moment, your personal boat-burning ceremony. Make it public, make it costly, make it irreversible. Perhaps it's quitting your job publicly. Perhaps it's investing your savings. Perhaps it's announcing your goal to the world. Remember, the universe has a curious way of conspiring to help those who leave themselves no choice but success. When you burn the boats, when you commit with absolute totality, you'll find resources you didn't know you had. You'll discover allies you didn't know existed. You'll develop strengths you didn't know you possessed. The world steps aside for the person who knows where they're going and demonstrates the commitment to get there. Half-hearted men get half-hearted results. But total commitment, it makes even the gods stand up and take notice. Advance, and let the ashes of your burned boats light the way forward. Before I conquered Europe, I conquered myself. This is the truth that most would-be conquerors never grasp. The greatest battlefield is not found on any map. It lies between your ears. The most crucial victories are won in absolute silence, in the privacy of your own mind. Let me share with you the first principle of self-mastery. Every external battle is first won or lost internally. When I faced the combined armies of Austria and Russia at Austerlitz, I had already won in my mind. The physical battle was merely the execution of an internal victory. Most people are at war with themselves without even knowing it. They sabotage their advances, retreat from their opportunities, and assassinate their own potential. They are like armies whose supply lines have been cut by their own commanders. Your first task as a conqueror is to end this civil war within. Here is how you begin. Understand that your mind has different provinces, each with its own agenda. There is the province of fear, always counseling retreat. The province of doubt, always questioning your capability. The province of comfort, always seeking the easy path. These territories must be conquered and brought under unified command. The method is this. First, you must establish absolute sovereignty over your thoughts. When fear appears, you do not negotiate with it, you command it. When doubt whispers, you do not debate with it, you silence it. A conqueror's mind is not a democracy. It is an empire ruled with absolute authority. But remember this crucial truth. Mastery of self does not mean suppression of self. When I trained my emotions, I did not eliminate them. I harnessed them. Fear became alertness. Anger became fuel. Doubt became precision. Your emotions are not your enemies. They are troops waiting to be trained. Here's another vital principle. The self must be conquered daily. You do not win this war once and celebrate forever. Each morning brings new rebellions of laziness, new insurgencies of procrastination. Like an empire, the self must be continuously governed, continuously disciplined. You must also understand this. The mind responds to decisive action. When you wake at dawn instead of sleeping in, you are not just winning a small skirmish, you are demonstrating to yourself who commands this territory. Every disciplined action is a flag planted in the province of your character. This is how you train the mind of a conqueror. Begin with small victories. Conquer your morning. Conquer your appetites. Conquer your distractions. Each victory, no matter how small, expands your empire of self-control. Each defeat, if learned from, strengthens your eventual conquest. Here is a strategy I used before every major campaign. I would visualize not just victory, but every obstacle to victory. I would feel the fatigue, taste the fear, hear the doubts, and then I would mentally overcome each one. You must do the same. Imagine your challenges in vivid detail, then mentally rehearse your conquest of them. Your assignment in self-mastery is this. For the next week, you will conduct hourly audits of your mental territory. Ask yourself, who is in command of my thoughts right now? Fear, laziness, distraction, or the conqueror I am becoming? Record these audits. Look for patterns. Identify which territories of your mind most frequently rebel against your authority. Remember, this external conquest without self-conquest is like building an empire on quicksand. Every great achievement is first achieved within. Every external victory is first won in that silent battlefield of the mind. You must become as strategic with yourself as you are with your enemies, as disciplined with your thoughts as you are with your actions, as uncompromising with your standards as you are with your goals. For in the end, the greatest empire you will ever rule is not one that can be found on any map. It is the empire of your own mind, your own will, your own character. Now go forth and conquer yourself. All other conquests will follow. In every battle I won, in every campaign I executed, there was one element that proved more valuable than all the cannons in my artillery: information. The ignorant general marches blind. The informed commander sees everything. Today, I will teach you how to make information your most powerful weapon. Understand this first. In war, as in life, it is not the strongest who prevails, but the best informed. When I defeated larger armies, it was because I knew their positions, their supplies, their morale, while they knew little about mine. Information is not just power. It is the foundation of all power. Most people move through life reacting to events as they happen. This is the strategy of the amateur. A conqueror gathers intelligence continuously, reading situations before they fully develop, understanding patterns before others even notice them. This is how you move from reacting to predicting, from following to leading. Here is how you build your intelligence network. First, you must develop what I call the commander's eye, the ability to see beyond the obvious. When I studied a battlefield, I didn't just count enemy troops. I observed the terrain, the weather, the supply lines, the morale. In your life, don't just look at the surface of situations. Study the underlying forces. Second, you must create systems for gathering intelligence. I had scouts, spies, and informants across Europe. In today's world, this means building networks, studying trends, analyzing data. Information without system is just noise. You must organize your intelligence gathering with military precision. But remember this crucial truth. Not all information is created equal. When my generals brought me reports, I wanted to know three things. Is it accurate? Is it actionable? Is it timely? You must develop the same filter. In an age of information overflow, the ability to identify what matters is itself a form of power. Here's another vital principle. Information must flow in all directions. I didn't just gather intelligence about my enemies, I studied my own forces with equal rigor. You must do the same. Study your strengths with the same intensity you study your competition. Know your resources, know your capabilities, know your weaknesses. You must also master the art of reading people. When I negotiated with other leaders, I studied not just their words, but their tone, their gestures, their silences. Every person broadcasts their intentions, if you know how to read the signals. This is not manipulation, it is understanding the human terrain of your battlefield. This is how you develop superior intelligence. Start with yourself. For 1 week, document everything: your energy levels, your productive hours, your decision patterns. Most people don't even know their own territory. How can they hope to understand their battlefield? Next, expand your intelligence gathering. Create what I call listening posts, regular ways to gather information about your field, your competition, your opportunities. Subscribe to key sources. Build relationships with informed people. Create systems to process and analyze what you learn. But here's a warning. Information without action is merely trivia. When I received intelligence about enemy movements, I acted immediately. You must develop this same bias for action. Don't just collect information, use it. Let every piece of intelligence inform your strategy, adjust your tactics, sharpen your execution. Your assignment is this: create your personal intelligence briefing. Every morning, spend 30 minutes gathering and analyzing key information. In your field, what's changing? What's emerging? What patterns are developing? Make this briefing as serious as a military commander planning an invasion. Remember, in today's world, the battlefield is everywhere. Every interaction is an opportunity. For intelligence gathering, every conversation contains valuable data. Every situation offers signals if you know how to read them. The future belongs not to the strongest, not to the most passionate, but to the best informed. Make information your weapon, intelligence your armor, and knowledge your kingdom. Now, go forth and master the art of knowing what others don't, seeing what others can't, and understanding what others won't. Time is the only resource that cannot be replenished. I conquered Europe not just through strategy and force, but through a ruthless efficiency that my enemies could never match. While they debated, I decided. While they prepared, I attacked. While they rested, I advanced. Let me teach you how to turn time into your greatest ally. Understand this first. Every minute wasted is a battle lost. When I planned my campaigns, I counted hours like others counted soldiers. Time is not a river flowing endlessly. It is a limited supply of ammunition. Each moment must be deployed with precision, with purpose, with devastating effect. Most people treat time like they are immortal. They waste it, kill it, spend it on trivial skirmishes that advance no objective. A conqueror approaches time with the same discipline they approach warfare. Every hour must serve a strategic purpose. Every minute must move you closer to victory. Here is how you develop military efficiency. First, you must establish what I call command and control over your day. When I ran my campaigns, every hour was accounted for. Every activity had its purpose. Your day should be planned with the same precision as a military operation. No drift, no waste, no unnecessary engagements. Second, you must master the art of decisive action. I made it a rule never to delay until tomorrow what could be done today. When reports came, I read them immediately. When decisions were needed, I made them on the spot. Procrastination is not just delayed action, it is surrendered. Advantage, but remember this crucial distinction. Efficiency is not mere speed. When I planned the invasion of Russia, fast decisions would have been fatal decisions. True efficiency is about optimal timing, knowing when to strike fast and when to take calculated time. It's about maximizing impact while minimizing waste. Here's another vital principle: Energy must be concentrated where it matters most. I never allowed my forces to be spread thin, and you must not allow your time to be dispersed across too many fronts. Identify your decisive battles, the actions that will yield the greatest results, and focus your finest hours there. You must also master what I call the commander's schedule. When I was emperor, my daily routine was inviolable. I slept 4 hours, worked 14, and used every minute between with military precision. Your schedule must become your command center. Guard it as you would guard your life. This is how you implement ruthless efficiency. Begin with an audit. For 1 week, track every hour like a military comptroller. Where are you losing time to poor planning? Where are you wasting energy on non-strategic activities? Where are your resources being depleted without proportional returns? Next, establish your order of battle, a strict prioritization of tasks based on strategic importance. I never allowed minor matters to consume time needed for major decisions. Your tasks must be ranked and executed according to their strategic value, not their urgency. Here is another command. Eliminate what I call time deserters, those activities that steal your hours while providing no strategic value. Social media without purpose, meetings without objectives, conversations without direction. These are not just wastes of time, they are acts of self-sabotage. Your assignment in efficiency is this: restructure your next 3 days as if you were planning a military campaign. Every hour must be accounted for. Every activity must serve a strategic purpose. Every engagement must move you closer to your objectives. Plan your assault on time-wasting activities with the same precision you would plan an invasion. Remember this: the difference between a dreamer and a conqueror is not in their goals, but in their use of time. Dreamers wish for different outcomes. Conquerors construct them hour by hour, minute by minute, with ruthless efficiency. The world belongs to those who can extract maximum value from every moment, who can turn time itself into a weapon of conquest. Your time is your army. Deploy it with precision, command it with authority, and watch as it conquers objective after objective in your name. Now go forth and make every minute serve your conquest. An army moves on loyalty as much as it moves on its feet. When I commanded men across the battlefields of Europe, I understood a truth that most leaders never grasp. Fear can drive men forward, but only loyalty can make them die for you. Today, I will teach you how to build the kind of loyalty that transforms followers into forces of nature. Understand this first. True loyalty cannot be bought. It must be earned. When I led my armies, I did not demand loyalty through rank alone. I earned it by sharing their hardships, knowing their names, fighting alongside them. People do not follow titles. They follow leaders who prove worthy of following. Most attempts at leadership fail because they focus on authority rather than influence. They try to command respect instead of commanding hearts. But I tell you this: the strongest authority is the one that needs no enforcement. True loyalty makes formal power almost unnecessary. Here is how you build unshakable loyalty. First, you must understand that loyalty grows from respect, and respect grows from competence. When my soldiers saw that my strategies brought victory, that my decisions saved their lives, their loyalty deepened. Excellence is the foundation of all true leadership. Second, you must master what I call the personal touch. I made it a point to know my officers' names, their backgrounds, their ambitions. In your world, this means taking genuine interest in your people. Remember details, acknowledge achievements, make each person feel like a vital part of the greater mission. But remember this crucial balance. A leader must be close enough to relate to others, but far enough ahead to motivate them. When I dined with my soldiers, I was one of them. But when I gave orders, I was their commander. You must learn to shift between accessibility and authority with perfect timing. Here's another vital principle. Loyalty must be reciprocal. When my men fought well, I rewarded them generously. When they showed courage, I acknowledged it publicly. People will walk through fire for a leader who recognizes and rewards their value. But remember, rewards must be earned, never expected. You must also understand this. Loyalty is tested in defeat, not in victory. After difficult battles, I would take responsibility for failures while sharing credit for successes. This is how you build loyalty that survives setbacks. Anyone can lead in triumph. True leadership shows itself in adversity. This is how you cultivate loyalty in practice. Begin with what I call the commander's presence. Be visible, be engaged. Don't hide behind ranks or titles. When I walked through camp before battle, my soldiers saw me sharing their risks, understanding their challenges. Your people must see you in the trenches, not just in the command tent. Next, establish clear paths for advancement. I promoted based on merit, not birth or privilege. This created a culture where every soldier knew their loyalty and excellence could lead to greater opportunities. In your world, this means creating clear routes for growth, recognition, and increased responsibility. Here is another command. Learn to delegate not just tasks, but authority. When I gave commanders their orders, I told them what needed to be done, not how to do it. This kind of trust breeds deeper loyalty than micromanagement ever could. Trust your people's capabilities while holding them to high standards. Your assignment in building loyalty is this. For the next month, focus on earning loyalty rather than expecting it. Keep a commander's log of how you've demonstrated your worth. As a leader, how have you added value to your people? How have you shown loyalty to them? How have you earned their trust? Remember this. In the end, people don't follow orders. They follow leaders. They don't commit to plans. They commit to people they believe in. Your ability to build genuine loyalty will determine whether you command an army or merely manage a group. The world belongs to those who can transform self-interest into shared purpose, who can turn followers into believers, who can build loyalty that outlasts any single battle or campaign. Now go forth and earn the kind of loyalty that turns ordinary people into extraordinary forces. Before I ever spoke a word, before I issued a single command, my presence alone could change the energy of a room. This is a power that cannot be granted by rank or purchased with gold. It must be cultivated, mastered, and wielded like any other weapon of war. Today, I will teach you how to make your mere presence a force that shapes reality. Understand this first. True presence is not about physical size. I stood only 5 feet 6 inches tall. It is about the space you command in the minds of others. When I entered a room, I owned it not through intimidation, but through an unshakable certainty in my own authority. This is the first secret of commanding presence. Most people try to increase their presence through external shows of force, loud voices, aggressive gestures, obvious displays of power. But I tell you this, true presence operates in silence. It requires no announcement. Like gravity, it is felt rather than seen, yet it moves everything in its orbit. Here is how you develop commanding presence. First, you must master what I call the emperor's posture. Your physical bearing must reflect absolute conviction in your own authority. I trained myself to move with deliberate purpose, to stand as if the ground beneath me belonged to me by divine right. Your body must speak power before your mouth opens. Second, you must understand the power of silence. When others spoke, I often remained quiet, watching, assessing. This created an anticipation that made my words, when finally spoken, land with greater impact. Learn to use silence as a weapon. Let others fill the void while you maintain your commanding presence. But remember this crucial truth: presence without substance is merely theater. When I commanded attention, it was backed by strategic brilliance and consistent victory. Your presence must be built on genuine capability. The world can sense the difference between authentic power and empty posturing. Here's another vital principle. Your presence must be consistent. When I dealt with kings or common soldiers, my fundamental bearing remained the same. I didn't inflate or deflate my presence based on my audience. True presence is not a costume you put on, it is the natural radiation of who you have become. You must also master what I call the commander's gaze. When I looked at someone, I looked through them, as if seeing not just who they were, but who they could become under my command. Your eyes must carry the same weight, the ability to see potential, to convey expectation, to demand excellence without speaking a word. This is how you implement commanding presence. Begin with your entrance. How do you enter a room? A meeting? A conversation? For 1 week, treat every entrance as if you were walking onto a battlefield. Your presence must announce itself without your voice doing so. Next, develop what I call presence awareness. Start noticing how others react to your arrival, your silence, your attention. Like a general reading the battlefield, you must read the impact of your presence and adjust accordingly. Are people straightening their posture, falling silent? These are signs of effective presence. Here is another command. Learn to modulate your presence like a weapon. There are times to fill the room with your energy, times to withdraw it strategically. I could silence a room with a look or put nervous soldiers at ease with a slight softening of my bearing. Your presence must be adaptable while remaining fundamentally powerful. Your assignment in presence mastery is this. For the next 10 days, you will conduct yourself as if you were already the emperor of your domain, not through arrogance, but through absolute conviction in your own authority. Document how this shift in your internal state affects your external presence. Remember this, every person you encounter will experience your presence, whether you intend it or not. The only question is whether that presence will be a force that shapes reality to your advantage or a weakness that undermines your objectives. The world belongs to those who can walk into a room and change its gravity, who can stand in silence and command attention, who can make their presence felt long after they have left. Now, go forth and let your presence speak what words cannot say. The greatest army in the world will crumble if its foundation is weak. I have seen empires fall not from external attacks, but from internal decay. Today, I will teach you how to build and maintain the core strength that makes all other victories possible. Understand this first. Your habits are your empire's foundation. When I rose at dawn every day, when I studied maps late into the night, when I maintained iron discipline in my routine, these were not just personal choices. They were the building blocks of empire. Your daily habits are either constructing your future victories or ensuring your eventual defeat. Most people focus on expansion before solidification. They try to conquer new territories while their base crumbles. But I tell you this, the size of your empire means nothing if its center cannot hold. You must build your core with the same attention a fortress engineer gives to its foundations. Here is how you strengthen your core. First, you must identify what I call the critical few, those fundamental habits and principles that everything else builds upon. For me, it was discipline, strategic thinking, and absolute control over my emotions. These were non-negotiable. What are your critical few? What habits, if maintained with military precision, would ensure your success? Second, you must establish your command center, your mind, body, and immediate environment. When I prepared for campaigns, I ensured my personal quarters were organized, my body was strong, my mind was sharp. A commander whose personal domain is in chaos cannot expect to command others effectively. But remember, this crucial balance, strength without flexibility, leads to brittleness. While my core principles were unchangeable, my methods could adapt to circumstances. Your foundation must be solid enough to support you, yet flexible enough to evolve with changing conditions. Here is another vital principle. The core must be tested regularly. I would deliberately place myself in challenging situations to test my resolve, my thinking, my capabilities. You must do the same. Your core strength must be proven under stress, not just maintained in comfort. You must also master what I call the commander's trinity: physical discipline, mental clarity, and strategic habit formation. When I marched with my army, I demonstrated physical resilience. When I planned campaigns, I required perfect mental focus. When I built my empire, I forged habits that supported greatness. These three elements must work in perfect concert. This is how you build unshakable core strength. Begin with a military audit of your current foundation. What habits serve your empire? What routines undermine it? What daily practices either strengthen or weaken your ability to command victory? Be as ruthless in this assessment as you would be in evaluating a battlefield position. Next, establish your imperial standards, the non-negotiable aspects of your daily regime. I never compromised on certain fundamentals: daily strategy reviews, physical training, time for deep thinking. Your standards must be so deeply ingrained that following them becomes as natural as breathing. Here is another command. Create what I call fortress routines, daily practices that protect and reinforce your core strength. Just as a fortress has multiple layers of defense, your day should have multiple layers of habits that protect your energy, focus, and strategic capability. Your assignment in core strength is this. For the next 30 days, approach your fundamental habits with military precision. Track them like a general tracks his supplies. Record them like a commander records troop movements. Your daily disciplines are not mere routines, they are the building blocks of empire. Remember this: in the end, empires fall more often from internal weakness than external attack. Your greatest enemy is not the competitor at your gates. It is the decay that can take root in your own habits, your own standards, your own daily choices. The world belongs to those who build themselves with the same care they build their empires, who guard their habits with the same vigilance they guard their territories, who strengthen their core with the same dedication they strengthen their forces. Now go forth and build a foundation worthy of the empire you intend to create. In warfare, as in life, he who controls the tempo controls the outcome. When I defeated the combined armies of Austria and Russia at Austerlitz, it wasn't just through superior numbers or strategy. It was through absolute mastery of timing and pace. Today, I will teach you how to make time itself bend to your will. Understand this first. Every situation has its own natural rhythm. Most people become slaves to this rhythm. They react to its beat, follow its flow, allow it to dictate their actions. But a conqueror imposes their own tempo on reality. They don't follow the rhythm, they create it. Most people mistake speed for tempo. They think faster is always better. But I tell you this, the true art of tempo lies not in constant speed, but in strategic variation. Sometimes you must move with lightning speed, sometimes with deliberate slowness. The key is knowing which tempo will break your opponent's rhythm. Here is how you master tempo. First, you must develop what I call temporal awareness, the ability to read the natural rhythm of any situation. When I studied a battlefield, I didn't just see positions, I saw timing. How fast did the enemy move? What was their decision-making speed? What was their recovery time between actions? You must develop this same awareness in your domain. Second, you must understand the power of tempo disruption. When my enemies expected a slow siege, I attacked with rapid movements. When they expected quick strikes, I held back, building tension. Your ability to change pace unexpectedly is often more powerful than the pace itself. But remember this crucial principle: tempo must serve strategy, not replace it. When I moved my army at unprecedented speeds across Europe, it wasn't speed for speed's sake. It was speed with strategic purpose. Every change in tempo must advance your larger objective. Here's Another vital truth, energy management is tempo management. I knew exactly how long my troops could maintain different paces of advance. You must know your own energy rhythms with the same precision. When can you sprint? When must you march? When must you rest to maintain optimal tempo? You must also master what I call the commander's rhythm, the ability to maintain internal calm while externally controlling pace. When chaos erupted on the battlefield, my internal tempo remained steady, allowing me to make clear decisions while others lost their composure. Your internal rhythm must become unshakable. This is how you implement tempo control. Begin with your own natural rhythms. For 1 week, document your energy flows, your decision-making speeds, your productive periods. You must know your own temporal terrain before you can command it. Next, practice what I call tempo shifting, the deliberate variation of pace in your activities. Some tasks demand rapid execution, others require strategic slowness. Your ability to shift between these modes with precision is what separates the amateur from the commander. Here is another command. Learn to use tempo as a weapon. In negotiations, control the pace. In competition, disrupt the expected rhythm. In daily work, impose your tempo on events rather than letting events impose their tempo on you. Time is not just a context for action. It is a tool of conquest. Your assignment in tempo mastery is this. Choose 3 important activities in your life. For each one, experiment with dramatically different tempos. What happens when you double the speed? What reveals itself when you cut the pace in half? Document how different rhythms affect outcomes. Remember this, the world operates on various frequencies. Most people can only play at one speed. They're stuck in a single tempo, wondering why they can't break through to new levels of achievement. But you must become a master conductor, capable of playing every tempo, switching rhythms at will, creating symphonies of strategic timing. The world belongs to those who can read the rhythm of circumstances and impose their own beat, who can accelerate when others expect delay, who can pause when others rush blindly forward. Now go forth and make time itself. Dance to your command. The greatest battles I ever won were won before they began, not through strength, but through anticipation. When others saw only what was, I saw what would be. Today, I will teach you how to develop this same foresight, not just of external enemies, but of the most dangerous opponent you'll ever face, yourself. Understand this first. Every defeat casts its shadow before it arrives. When I lost the Battle of Waterloo, the seeds of that defeat were planted long before the first shot was fired. In overconfidence, in underestimating circumstances, in failing to see my own blind spots. Your greatest defeats will come not from what surprises you, but from what you refused to see coming. Most people think anticipation is about predicting external events. But I tell you this, the most crucial anticipation is internal. You must learn to predict your own weaknesses, your own failures, your own moments of doubt. These are the enemies that will defeat you before any external force can. Here's how you develop strategic foresight. First, you must master what I call the commander's projection, the ability to play out scenarios in your mind with military precision. Before every campaign, I would envision not just victory, but every possible way that victory could be denied. What would overconfidence cost me? What would fear make me overlook? What would anger make me rush into? Second, you must understand the patterns of your own nature. I knew that my aggressive instincts, while often a strength, could become a weakness. If not monitored, you must become a student of your own tendencies. What patterns lead you to victory? What patterns lead to defeat? Where are your blind spots? But remember this crucial truth. Anticipation without action is merely anxiety. When I foresaw potential problems, I didn't just worry about them, I prepared for them. Every predicted challenge must be met with a prepared response. Every anticipated weakness must be matched with a strengthening strategy. Here's another vital principle. The best generals can predict not just enemy movements, but enemy psychology. I could often anticipate what my opponents would do because I understood their fears, their ambitions, their habits of thought. You must develop this same psychological insight, both for others and for yourself. You must also master what I call the paradox of preparation, the ability to be both thoroughly prepared and completely adaptable. When I anticipated challenges, I planned for them meticulously, but I never became so attached to my predictions that I couldn't adapt when reality proved different. This is how you implement strategic anticipation. Begin with a thorough self-audit. What are your recurring patterns of failure? What situations consistently trigger your worst decisions? What emotional states most often lead to strategic mistakes? Map these patterns like a general maps enemy territory. Next, develop what I call preemptive protocols, specific strategies for dealing with your anticipated weaknesses. If you know you make poor decisions when angry, create a cooling-off protocol. If you know you rush when pressured, establish a forced pause procedure. Your weaknesses, once anticipated, can become opportunities for strategic innovation. Here is another command. Create early warning systems for your own behavior. Just as I had scouts watching for enemy movement, you must have mechanisms that alert you when you're moving toward familiar patterns of failure. What are your warning signs? What signals appear before your worst decisions? Your assignment in anticipation is this. For the next month, maintain a commander's log of your strategic failures, not just what happened, but what led to it. What thoughts, feelings, or circumstances preceded each mistake. Look for patterns. These patterns are the map to your future victories. Remember this, in the end, your greatest enemy is not external competition, not market forces, not bad luck. It is your own unexamined patterns, your own predictable responses, your own blind spots that you refuse to acknowledge. The world belongs to those who can see around corners, who can anticipate not just external challenges, but internal sabotage, who can predict and prepare for both enemy movements and their own moments of weakness. Now, go forth and make the future your ally rather than your opponent. Not every battle I won led to victory. Not every victory I achieved came through winning. When I retreated from Russia, I learned perhaps the most valuable lesson of conquest. Sometimes you must lose the battle to win the war. Today, I will teach you the art of strategic loss and ultimate triumph. Understand this first. Most people's understanding of victory and defeat is childishly simple. They think every engagement must be won, every challenge must be conquered, every competitor must be crushed. But I tell you this, true strategic mastery lies in knowing which battles to fight, which to abandon, and which to lose on purpose. Most people are destroyed not by their defeats, but by their inability to absorb them properly. When I lost battles, and I did lose battles, I never lost the lesson they contained. Every defeat is a teacher if you have the courage to study its wisdom rather than hide from its pain. Here is how you master strategic loss. First, you must understand what I call the Yin hierarchy of victories. Not all wins are equal, and not all losses are fatal. When I withdrew from certain positions, it wasn't because I couldn't hold them, it was because holding them would cost resources better spent elsewhere. You must learn to categorize your battles by their true strategic value. Second, you must develop what I call strategic elasticity, the ability to absorb defeats without breaking. When I lost engagements, I didn't lose confidence. I didn't lose direction. I maintained strategic coherence even in tactical retreat. Your resilience must be built on something deeper than mere success or failure. But remember this crucial truth. A strategic loss is not the same as a careless defeat. When I chose to abandon a position, it was a calculated decision serving a larger purpose. Never confuse strategic withdrawal with lazy surrender. Every loss you accept must serve your ultimate victory. Here's another vital principle. The art of losing intelligently. When I had to retreat, I did so in a way that consumed my enemy's resources, exposed their positions, and prepared my future advance. If you must lose, lose in a way that sets up your eventual triumph. Make your defeats serve your victories. You must also master what I call the commander's perspective, the ability to see beyond immediate outcomes to final results. When I seemed to be losing ground in a campaign, I was often setting up a larger victory. Your vision must extend beyond the current battle to the ultimate war. This is how you implement strategic loss. Begin with your current challenges. Which ones are truly essential to your final victory? Which ones are merely consuming resources that could be better used elsewhere? Make a cold, strategic assessment of where fighting to the death serves you and where tactical withdrawal would serve you better. Next, develop what I call defeat protocols, specific strategies for how to lose intelligently when losing is the right choice. How will you preserve your core resources? How will you maintain morale? How will you learn from the experience? How will you position yourself for future advantage? Losing well is as much a skill as winning well. Here is another command. Learn to distinguish between defeats that weaken you and defeats that teach you. When I lost battles, I categorized them ruthlessly, which losses exposed genuine weaknesses I needed to address, which losses simply showed me where not to fight. Your defeats must become your professors. Your assignment in strategic loss is this: review your recent defeats. But instead of focusing on the pain of losing, analyze them. Like a military commander, what did each defeat teach you? What resources did it save you? What future victories did it make possible? Transform your losses from wounds into weapons. Remember this: history remembers final victories, not intermediate defeats. When I faced setbacks, I never lost sight of the ultimate campaign. Your legacy will be written not by how many times you fell, but by how many times you turned defeat into the foundation of future triumph. The world belongs to those who can lose battles without losing their vision, who can absorb defeats without absorbing doubt, who can turn temporary setbacks into permanent advantages. Now go forth and make even your losses serve your victory. In the grand game of empire, every relationship is a strategic asset or a strategic liability. When I forged alliances across Europe, I understood a truth that most leaders never grasp. Allies are not friends, and attachment is not alliance. Today, I will teach you how to master the delicate art of strategic relationships. Understand this. First, most people approach relationships with the weakness of emotion rather than the clarity of strategy. But I tell you this: in the pursuit of great objectives, every relationship must be evaluated through the lens of strategic value. This is not cynicism, it is clarity. Most people allow sentiment to cloud their strategic judgment. They maintain alliances that drain their resources. They trust partners who undermine their objectives. They let loyalty to the past blind them to the demands of the future. This is the path to defeat. Here is how you forge strategic alliances. First, you must master what I call the commander's calculus, the ability to evaluate relationships based on mutual benefit rather than mutual affection. When I allied with nations, I didn't need to like them. I needed to know our interests aligned. Every relationship in your life must be subjected to this same strategic analysis. Second, you must understand the difference between loyalty and utility. When I chose marshals for my armies, I didn't choose them because they were loyal. I chose them because they were capable. Their loyalty grew from their inclusion in my victories, not from personal attachment. Your relationships must be built on value creation, not emotional dependency. But remember this crucial balance. While relationships must be strategic, they cannot appear calculating. When I built alliances, I showed genuine appreciation, genuine interest, genuine respect. The art lies in maintaining strategic clarity internally while building authentic connections externally. Here is another vital principle. All relationships have expiration dates. When circumstances changed in Europe, alliances that once served me became liabilities. You must be prepared to evolve or end relationships when their strategic value diminishes. This is not betrayal. It is strategic necessity. You must also master what I call the alliance hierarchy, the ability to categorize relationships by their strategic importance. Not all allies deserve the same investment of time, energy, and resources. Some relationships must be maintained daily, others can be engaged quarterly, others must be ended entirely. This is how you implement strategic relationship management. Begin with a thorough audit of your current relationships, personal, professional, social. Which ones truly advance your objectives? Which ones drain your resources? Which ones could be upgraded through strategic repositioning? Next, develop what I call alliance protocols, specific strategies for managing different types of relationships. How much time do you invest? What boundaries do you maintain? What value do you expect and offer? Your relationship management must be as systematic as your battle plans. Here is another command. Learn to distinguish between strategic allies and strategic attachments. An ally helps you achieve objectives. An attachment holds you back through emotional manipulation. Be ruthless in telling the difference. Your success depends on it. Your assignment in strategic relationships is this. For the next 30 days, approach every relationship like a military commander. Document the strategic value each relationship provides. Map the resources it requires. Calculate the return on relational investment. This is not cold. It is clear. Remember this. In the pursuit of great objectives, you cannot afford the luxury of purely emotional relationships. Every significant connection in your life must serve a strategic purpose while being maintained with genuine respect. This is the art of sophisticated relationship management. The world belongs to those who can forge alliances without forming attachments, who can build genuine connections while maintaining strategic clarity, who can engage fully while remaining free to evolve. Now go forth and make every relationship serve your ultimate victory, while serving others in return. In the heat of battle, when cannons roared and empires hung in the balance, my greatest weapon was not my artillery. It was my calm. When others panicked, I thought. When others rushed, I analyzed. When others lost their heads, I kept mine. Today, I will teach you how to remain cold when everything around you is on fire. Understand this first. Pressure does not create weakness, it reveals it. When I faced the combined armies of Europe, the pressure didn't change who I was. It showed. Who I was? This is a truth most people never grasp. Your response to pressure is not an aberration. It is a revelation of your true character. Most people believe calmness is the absence of stress. But I tell you this. True strategic calm is the ability to think clearly and act decisively precisely when stress is highest. It is not peace you must master, it is chaos. Here is how you develop unshakable composure. First, you must understand what I call the commander's paradox. The more critical the situation, the calmer you must become. When I faced my greatest challenges, I deliberately slowed my thinking, deepened my analysis, sharpened my focus. Pressure must trigger clarity, not confusion. Second, you must master what I call strategic detachment, the ability to separate yourself emotionally from the chaos while remaining intellectually engaged with it. When battles raged, I could step back mentally and see the entire field with cold clarity. Your mind must become an observatory above the battlefield of your challenges. But remember this crucial truth. Calmness is not passive. It is a weapon. When everyone around me lost their composure, my calm became a center of gravity that others could rely upon. Your serenity in chaos must become a force that shapes reality, not just a state that preserves you. Here's another vital principle. The art of calculated response. When surprise attacks came, I never reacted instantly. I responded strategically. There is a world of difference between reaction, which is emotional, and response, which is strategic. You must master this difference. You must also understand what I call pressure triggers, those specific situations that tend to break your composure. For me, it was not the sight of the enemy that tested my calm. It was the incompetence of subordinates. Know your triggers, map them, prepare for them before they arrive. This is how you implement strategic calm. Begin with pressure training. Deliberately put yourself in challenging situations, public speaking, competitive sports, tight deadlines. Use these as laboratories to study your response to pressure. Your calm must be tested to be trusted. Next, develop what I call chaos. Protocols, specific strategies for maintaining clarity when everything falls apart. What is your first step when crisis hits? How do you maintain strategic thinking when others panic? How do you communicate decisively without adding to the chaos? These protocols must be established before they're needed. Here is another command. Learn to use pressure as a purifier. When chaos hits, it burns away everything non-essential, leaving only what truly matters. Train yourself to see pressure not as an enemy of clear thinking, but as its catalyst. Let the heat of the moment forge your thoughts into steel. Your assignment in strategic calm is this. For the next week, deliberately seek out pressure situations, but approach them with a commander's mindset. Observe your responses, document your triggers, practice your protocols. Every stressful situation becomes your training ground. Remember this, in the end, your ability to maintain clear thinking under fire will determine whether you command circumstances or are commanded by them. Pressure is not your enemy. It is your proving ground. Chaos is not your obstacle. It is your opportunity. The world belongs to those who can think coldly while others react hotly, who can maintain strategic clarity when others lose their way, who can use pressure to sharpen their abilities rather than shatter their composure. Now go forth and make chaos bow to your calm. Your mind is your empire's most crucial territory. When I commanded armies across Europe, I understood that the greatest battles were not fought on physical ground, but in the territory between one's ears. Today, I will teach you how to fortify this most vital of domains. Understand this first. Your mind is under constant siege. Every day, thousands of thoughts, influences, and suggestions attempt to breach your mental walls. Most people leave their mental gates unguarded, allowing any passing idea to take up residence in their minds. This is the path to defeat. Most people think mental defense is about positive thinking, but I tell you this, true mental fortification is about strategic filtration. When I planned campaigns, I didn't allow every suggestion to enter my thinking. I created strict criteria for what thoughts deserved my attention. Your mind must become an impregnable fortress with carefully guarded gates. Here is how you fortify your mental territory. First, you must master what I call the commander's filter, the ability to evaluate thoughts based on their strategic value rather than their emotional appeal. When ideas presented themselves to me, I asked one question: does this serve my empire? Your thoughts must pass the same strategic scrutiny. Second, you must establish what I call mental borders, clear boundaries between productive and destructive thinking. When doubt crept into my generals' minds before battle, I didn't entertain it, I expelled it. Your mind must have clear protocols for what thoughts are allowed citizenship and which must be exiled. But remember this crucial balance. Mental defense is not about rigid thinking. When I defended territory, I maintained flexibility within my fortifications. Your mind must be strong enough to keep out weakness, yet flexible enough to adapt to new intelligence. This is the art of mental sovereignty. Here's another vital principle, the hierarchy of thoughts. Not all ideas deserve equal space in your mind. When I received reports from the battlefield, some required immediate attention, others could wait, others were discarded entirely. Your thoughts must be triaged with the same strategic precision. You must also master what I call mental reconnaissance, the ability to detect threatening thoughts before they become entrenched. When I saw defeatism beginning to spread in my ranks, I crushed it immediately. Your mind must have early warning systems for toxic thoughts. This is how you implement mental fortification. Begin with a strategic audit of your current thinking. What thoughts regularly infiltrate your mind? Which ones strengthen your empire? Which ones undermine it? Map your mental territory like a general maps his battlefield. Next, establish what I call thought protocols, specific strategies for processing different types of mental content. How do you handle defeat? How do you process criticism? How do you maintain strategic focus when distractions attack? These protocols must be established before they're needed. Here's another command. Create mental supply lines, reliable sources of strategic thinking that reinforce your empire. When I needed clarity, I turned to my maps, my reports, my trusted advisors. Your mind must be regularly supplied with thoughts that serve your conquest. Your assignment in mental fortification is this. For the next month, guard your mental territory like a commander guards his fortress. Document every thought that seeks. Entry. Evaluate its strategic value. Accept or reject it based on its service to your objectives. This is not paranoia. It is strategic necessity. Remember this. In the end, your mind will either be your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. Every thought you allow past your mental gates either strengthens or weakens your empire. There is no neutral territory in the battle for mental sovereignty. The world belongs to those who can guard their minds without becoming rigid, who can filter their thoughts without becoming closed, who can maintain mental sovereignty while remaining open to strategic intelligence. Now, go forth and make your mind a fortress worthy of the empire you're building. When others slept, I planned. When others rested, I worked. When others retreated, I advanced. The difference between greatness and mediocrity is not talent, it is endurance. Today I will teach you how to outlast your competition and outwork your limitations. Understand this first. Most battles are not won by strategy or strength. They are won by stamina. When I marched my armies across Europe, it wasn't superior tactics that often gave us victory. It was our ability to march longer, fight harder, and endure more than our enemies. This is the truth that comfort seekers never grasp. Endurance is the ultimate strategic advantage. Most people think of work in terms of hours, but I tell you this, true conquest is measured in relentless momentum. When I campaigned, I didn't count hours. I counted objectives achieved, territories taken, victories secured. Your work must be measured not by time spent, but by ground conquered. Here is how you develop unstoppable momentum. First, you must master what I call the commander's pace, the ability to work not just hard, but sustainably hard. When I pushed my armies, I pushed them to their limit, but never beyond it. Your pace must be intense enough to break your competition, but sustainable enough to maintain indefinitely. Second, you must understand the difference between motion and progress. When I moved my forces, every step had strategic purpose. Many mistake activity for achievement, busyness for progress. Your work must be as strategically focused as it is relentless. But remember this crucial truth. Endurance without direction is just exhaustion. When I drove my forces forward, it was always toward clear objectives. Your capacity to work must be matched by your clarity of purpose. Every hour of effort must serve your ultimate conquest. Here's another vital principle: the art of strategical recovery. When I campaigned, I didn't just plan the advances, I planned the rest periods. Your ability to sustain relentless momentum depends on your ability to recover strategically. Rest is not weakness, it is tactical necessity. You must also master what I call the endurance hierarchy, understanding which tasks demand your peak energy and which can be executed on reserve power. When I fought battles, I saved my best troops for decisive moments. Your energy must be deployed with the same strategic precision. This is how you implement relentless execution. Begin with your current work capacity. Document it. Measure it. Then systematically expand it. When I trained my armies, we continuously pushed our limits, but methodically, strategically. Your capacity for work must be expanded like a military campaign, methodically but relentlessly. Next, develop what I call fatigue protocols, specific strategies for maintaining excellence even when exhaustion sets in. How do you maintain precision when tired? How do you make decisions when drained? How do you lead when exhausted? These protocols separate the amateur from the conqueror. Here is another command. Learn to distinguish between real limits and imagined ones. When my soldiers thought they couldn't march another mile, they usually had reserves they hadn't tapped. Your mind will surrender long before your true capacity is reached. Push past the first surrender. Your assignment in unstoppable momentum is this. For the next 30 days, systematically expand your work capacity. Each week, increase your output by 10%, not through rushing, but through strategic expansion of your productive hours, your focused energy, your sustainable pace. Remember this, the world doesn't belong to the smartest, the strongest, or even the most strategic. It belongs to those who can maintain relentless forward momentum when others falter, who can push harder for longer, who can turn their capacity for work into a strategic weapon. Most people stop when they feel tired. Some stop when they feel pain. A few stop when they achieve their first victory. But a conqueror? A conqueror stops only when the mission is complete, and sometimes not even then. The distance between who you are and who you could be is crossed only through relentless execution. Your capacity for sustained effort is not just a trait, it is a tactical advantage that, properly deployed, can overcome almost any obstacle. Now go forth and make your endurance legendary. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. It is unexpressed potential. When I lay on my deathbed in St. Helena, I didn't regret the battles I lost. I regretted the battles I never fought, the campaigns I never launched, the conquests I left unconquered. Today, I will teach you how to die empty, having used every weapon in your arsenal. Understand this first. Most people die with their best strategies still locked in their minds, their finest qualities still dormant, their greatest potential still sleeping within them. But I tell you this, a true conqueror's greatest fear should not be failure. It should be the possibility of leaving this world with ammunition still in their weapons. Most people think conservation is wisdom. They save their energy, hold back their best ideas, preserve their resources for some perfect future moment. This is the strategy of the mediocre. Everything you don't use becomes a weight that drags you toward mediocrity. Here is how you ensure you die empty. First, you must master what I call the commander's urgency, the ability to treat each day as if it were your last campaign. When I fought battles, I never assumed there would be another chance. Your life must be lived with this same immediate intensity. Second, you must understand the principle of strategic expenditure. When I deployed resources in battle, I didn't hold back. I used everything necessary for victory. Your talents, your ideas, your energy, these are not treasures to be hoarded. They are ammunition to be fired, but remember this crucial balance. Using everything doesn't mean using it carelessly. When I committed my forces, it was with precise purpose. Your goal is not to exhaust your resources, but to deploy them with maximum strategic impact. Every expenditure must serve your ultimate conquest. Here's another vital principle: the art of complete commitment. When I launched campaigns, I committed totally. Half measures waste more resources than full commitment ever could. Your engagement with life must be total. No holding back, no strategic reserves, no saved for later greatness. You must also master what I call the death calculation, the ability to evaluate your actions against the finality of death. Would this task matter on your deathbed? Would this achievement be worth mentioning in your final hours? Your priorities must be filtered through the lens of ultimate significance. This is how you implement total deployment. Begin with an inventory of your unused weapons, those talents, ideas, and capabilities that remain unexpressed. What dreams have you deferred? What abilities have you hidden? What contributions have you withheld? These are not assets. They are liabilities until deployed. Next, develop what I call expression protocols, specific strategies for ensuring your best qualities find expression. How will you ensure your ideas are shared? How will you guarantee your talents are used? How will you make certain your potential becomes performance? These protocols must be ruthlessly executed. Here's another command. Create urgency triggers, regular reminders that time is finite. When I planned campaigns, I always felt death's breath on my neck. This didn't paralyze me, it energized me. Your awareness of life's brevity must become fuel for immediate action. Your assignment in dying empty is this. For the next 30 days, live as if you had 1 year left. What would you create? What would you contribute? What would you conquer? Then compress those actions into this month. This is not morbid, it is motivating. Remember this. In the end, you will not be judged by what you possessed, but by what you expressed. Not by what you kept in reserve, but by what you deployed in service of your mission. Not by what you could have done, but by what you did. The world belongs to those who understand that greatness kept in reserve becomes mediocrity in reality, who know that unused potential is not noble, it is tragic, who realize that the safest way to die is to die empty, having fired every bullet, launched every campaign, expressed every gift. Now go forth and make sure that when death finally comes for you, it finds nothing left unused, only the spent shells of a life fully fired.